Hey guys, welcome to the video. My name's Oliver King and this channel is all about how to make money from your art. And for me this includes things like photography, videography, and graphic design. Today I thought I would try and recreate the style of my best-selling photo on my stock photography platforms, which is a shot of a campfire and a deck at my family's cabin in Saskatchewan. So what I thought I'd do is try and recreate this image in my own backyard with my own deck here. And it's kind of a fun one to create because it's stylistically a little bit more challenging. It's a little bit of a long exposure. You have to do a little bit of a setup. There's some kind of little tips and tricks that I could pass on to you so that maybe you could create your own little shot and hopefully make a little bit of money off of it on your stock photography portfolios as well. So what I'm going to do is just kind of run through a step-by-step process that I use to create the initial image, and then I'm going to try and kind of build that in my own little deck area in the backyard there, and hopefully we'll have some similar or at least close results. So the first thing I'm going to do in the process is create my setting. What I would suggest you to do is, if you're photographing your backyard or a portion of your backyard, is to pick a corner. This is going to be better probably because you're going to be able to control the background or what's behind it a little bit more easily. I have my patio furniture set up right against the fence, and so there's going to be a nice natural wood panel on one side, and then there's basically going to be darkness and a handrail on the other side, since we're going to be shooting this at night. Now the rest of the image is going to be basically patio furniture, a table, and then a couple of green plants. Now I really like the look of natural wood with the green, and in the previous image I was able to just use the trees that were surrounding the area, and in this case I'm just going to have to use the planters that I have with a couple leafier plants to kind of add that little splash of color. And then the patio furniture itself, I'm going to try and make it look nice and warm and inviting and comfortable, so I'm going to put out the pillows and everything, and then I'm going to set a candle on the tabletop. Not only is the candle going to be decorative, it's also going to provide us a nice little source of light for the long exposure part of it, and so that's going to be great. And then I'm going to tie it all together with the final lighting thing, which is going to be the string of lights behind the image, and this is going to hopefully light up the whole scene so that we kind of get a nice warm glowing look to the image. Now the next thing I'm going to do is try and make everything in the image pop just a little bit more, and so I'm going to focus on the details. I'm going to clean off the table so it's got a nice glassy surface, and then what I'm going to do with the natural wood is I'm going to get it wet. And so the reason I want to do this is because it's going to make it look darker. It's going to kind of bring out the textured grain of the wood. And with the tabletop, I might even want to just have some little beads of water on it. And this is just going to make the whole thing look a little bit more fresh and, again, a little bit more inviting. And those warm colors are really going to kind of reflect off all of the surfaces just a little bit, and they're going to kind of pull that light into them just a little bit more. I'm not sure if that actually makes sense, but just imagine that if it just rained, you kind of have that nice fresh looking environment. So that's kind of the idea that I want to kind of mimic in this shot. Now the third step is probably the most important, and this is to nail the exposure. So the shot I'm going to take is going to be with a 16mm lens, so it's going to be a little bit wider of an angle. I think anything from a 16 to a 35 would be good for a deck, just because if you're getting past that, you're probably backing up a little bit outside of your deck, so it gets a little bit more tricky. But I'm going to be shooting with a 16mm. I'm going to be shooting with an aperture of f4. I'm going to be shooting with a shutter speed of 4 seconds. And then, since I'm into stock photography and I'm going to be trying to sell this, I'm going to be trying to keep my grain and artifacts really low. So I'm going to be shooting with 100 as my ISO, and I'm going to try and just keep that as low as possible, just so that, you know, I'm not going to get my images rejected on whatever platform I decide to upload this to. It's also important to note here that I'm shooting 16mm, but I'm using a crop sensor camera here, so it'll have an equivalence of 24mm. So if you want to follow along with that as best as you can use that as a reference. I'm also going to use a tripod to set this up. This is just going to help me keep my camera stable. It's going to help me to just make sure I get the correct angle and get a little bit of an elevation on my shot. So I'm going to be using my tripod, extend it to the highest that I can, and then I'm going to kind of angle it down just a little bit, just so that it has that kind of looking down sort of angle on it. It's going to make the light fall on it a little bit better, and it's usually a pretty flattering angle to shoot from high to low. And on the patio, it's going to let us kind of see the whole scene. It's going to let us see the tops of the chairs, the tops of the patio, and the tops of the table as well. So hopefully we'll get everything in the shot, and this angle will kind of give us the most flattering look. Now, you're probably going to have to move the tripod around. I took about 20 shots or so just to get the image that I actually wanted, and so you might have to start with a little bit of trial and error as well, but hey, this is photography. Now the last thing I really want to focus on is just the white balance. Make sure that it's not too yellow or too warm, because this is going to overpower it, and I find it's challenging to edit that back. But that's just kind of the last thing you should probably focus on. It's just hard to edit that afterwards, so just bear that in mind. So here are some of the images that I got, and I hope that they don't quite compare to the original one that I shot, unfortunately, but that setting is just everything. And so, you know, the best that you can do, try and work with what you have and have some fun with it. I am happy with what I shot here, but again, it's just hard to create that original sort of setting that I had, which was just really, really beautiful. So yeah, take some trial and error with this. I'm gonna take a few more shots and hopefully I can really nail this as I go through the step-by-step process. Thanks for watching the video. I hope you enjoyed it and I hope it was useful to you, and we'll catch you in the next one.